Tarot with Taschi number 13, lucky number 13. And I'm just gonna jump right in and start shuffling. Hope everybody's had a good week. I have had a very busy week, work, and just in life. Lots of things going on in March apparently. But once they've happened, I can't believe it's March to start with, but once they've happened, should be downhill for the rest of the year. No. Somebody's been overthinking. Why is this one upside down? Get out of your head. Out of your head. There's a lot of energies this week that are there's a lot of shifting going on in a lot of spaces. There's a lot of shifting going on in the head space, and that can make you feel quite dizzy or out of it, not quite grounded, because they're doing a lot of energetic work in this area. So you want to eat grounding foods, you want to sit on the ground, you want to make sure that you're watching high vibe things, keep to yourself maybe. Definitely sweet potato, carrots, that sort of thing. Hydrate, take your vitamins before bed because they're doing a lot of work on you when you're asleep. And the heart space as well, so that might make a lot of fears come up that you're holding in your heart, a lot of doubts, insecurities, and you might have outbursts, you might have a cry, you might, all sorts of things can come out when they're doing work in the heart space. And the end of the month, that's the end of those types of upgrades and adjustments, and then it sort of tweaks throughout the rest of the year. So March is quite big, but downhill after that. So it's funny, my friend messaged me, said, I think your video last week was about the coronavirus. Don't do anything financially until the coronavirus dies down, and now I'm probably going to get a bunch of coronavirus stuff in my feed because I said the word. Maybe. I don't know if that's maybe a world way you look at the world. Everybody's going to interpret my cards differently, including myself, because I have a filter and you have a filter. And if you have a bias towards certain ways of thinking or being in the world, then you're going to interpret things very differently from somebody else. Well, you're allowed to. It's like art. You interpret art however you would like. There's somebody thinking about a broken heart, maybe. The Three of Swords, there's different heartbreak, betrayal, sadness, obviously a lot of tears there, but it's not a major card, it's only a minor card, and this too shall pass. Okay, I'm just going to go with that. These three cards of I'm going to show you my cards from now on after last week. The Lovers. Again, this temptation. What's that snake? My eyes went straight to that snake in the apple. Temptation there. Maybe don't. I feel like that heartbreak's already happened to do with this. Actually, I can go with that. It might be a dark night of the soul moment. It might be, we've all been there. That relationship where I feel like that person, I was in that relationship, it was a long time ago, like years ago, but it died. And I always go back to that one because it was a significant factor in me becoming the person that I am now. And if that hadn't happened the way that it did, I probably would be quite a different person, or I wouldn't be so far along in my spiritual evolution without that event, even though there was a lot of tears. But a divine, something stuck in my tooth. Divine, the angel looking down. It's a divine partnership, like a fated. In my case, it was very fated. We kept meeting every few years. We were put in front of each other every few years until the inevitable happened. And then they had the dark night of the soul, the death of a part of me, death of the ego, but it was definitely a death. I was on the floor of the shower thinking to myself, this person I am has died, and this new person is going to be reborn, and that's this flower here that signifies the rebirth, even though it's the death card. Now I'm thinking virus because God, I've put that in my own head. Temperance. Let it flow. Go with the flow. Don't try. Just speaking about this, somebody is very devastated over a situation, relationship situation where they didn't have the outcome that was ideal for them, and they're trying to distract themselves with other things, work, TV, whatever, but you are actually better off. What keeps you in the flow isn't moving, it's actually sitting with your emotions and letting them move through you in any way that they want to move. Including crying, journaling, freeform dance, interpretive dance, whatever you have to do to let that emotion, breathwork obviously, let that emotion move out and through you and flow, so you can you've got one foot in the past and one foot in the future. You sort of have to go backwards to go forwards, I think, a lot of the time. I'm just going to go to the bottom of the deck. Five of Cups. Who needs shuffling? Five of Cups. That is seeing the disappointments. If you look at him, he's looking down at the fallen over cups and the things that have not worked out, and the disappointments and the emotions, because there's water there in that card there that signifies emotions, and cups are about emotions. So there's a bit of wallowing going on, and you can't see these two upright cups here. You've got to see the beauty of the situation and what the situation has brought you. That's what I was speaking about just before. I wouldn't be the person I am today if that hadn't happened. But was it easy? No. Worst time I've ever had. But we've both moved forward, and we've had resolution, and I'm quite proud of that, which is why I'm speaking about it. It took a few years of a time out, didn't see each other at all, but then now we've come to this place of understanding, and I feel like that was actually underlying anger, made my skin red, and was actually holding me back from opening up to somebody else. So there's always positives, is what I'm getting at. There's always even though it's bad, it seems bad, and you feel like you're never gonna recover. I mean, like I was saying, was it last week? The week before? You will recover. One day you wake up and you won't think of that person. One day you wake up and you feel fine. It's a time thing, and you just have to move through it, and then and sort of see it from a third person perspective, removed from the situation, where you can look at it objectively and see why it happened, and even the order that it happened in, and the timing of it, and how that time was actually perfect for you, and perfect for them, and perfect for everybody. Shuffle. One more. I don't want to do two more. We'll see. Heartbreak. Heartbreak it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But there's practical things you can do to help yourself. I mean, this is a practical card. Sharing your stories, I think, is really helpful, which is the only reason I'm talking about it right now, because I believe that sharing helps other people, and I'm pretty much an open book. I really don't care about... I keep some things private, but if you ask me a question, I'm not going to shut it down. I'm going to answer truthfully, just like when people ask you how you're feeling at work or whatever, and I actually answer truthfully all the time, and it actually makes people really uncomfortable. That's kind of why I do it. Somebody asks me, do I feel, how you feeling today? I say, shit. Or I feel alright, pretty good. If I feel pretty good, I check in with myself, so I feel pretty good. But some people, if you say, I'm not feeling that well, people are like, oh, you just have to get over it. You just have to move on. Like, invalidation of feelings is like my trigger. You don't have to understand it, but you have to acknowledge that my experience is different from your experience, and and my honesty doesn't affect you in any way. But if 9 times out of 10, depending on the person, if you say you're not feeling that well, they will actually visibly bristle and tense up, because that doesn't work for them. So good luck with that. I'll stick to being honest and authentic, thanks. But generally I feel alright all the time, but sometimes I don't, and I'm not going to lie about it. But put the work in. There's spiritual work here, this heartbreak. You will move past it, but there will be work involved, and you will have to journal, and you will have to sit and think about it, and sit in your feelings, and come to a place of peace with it, and peace around why this might have happened to you. I'm going to leave that one. Strength. The Lovers, Death, Temperance, and Strength. You will get through it, even though you think that you won't at times when you're lying on the floor crying. You will, and this is my personal card because my number is an 8. My numerology, my birthday's an 8, and 8 is the Strength card. I feel like strength is one of my strengths. I know for a fact a lot of the things that I've been through in my life, people wouldn't be where I'm at. And that's because I put in the work and I do the thinking required. I'm not shaming anybody for not doing that, but if you want to thrive in life, then you have to do the work, and you have to pull from the inner strength that you have, whether you have to pull that strength from your friends and family or you can do it yourself. I have a connection to spirituality that's always gotten me through things, and I've never really lost that or had a crisis of faith about that or even questioned whether it's real. I've just always had it, and resilience is probably my middle name. And when it comes, that's why I can say something like heartbreak, who cares, whatever. It's never a bad thing, and just move forward and jump into love. It's because I have that resilience there, and I have the spiritual tools and the practical tools that I need to move forward. It takes quite a lot for me to slip from that into a negative place. I'm not saying that hasn't happened. My recent illness definitely had me there, but I saw myself fall into the hole very slowly, but I also pulled myself out of the hole one thing at a time, mostly by listening to my body and listening to the signs and following my gut and following my nose with the information that came in front of me and the people that came in front of me, and I was able to draw on that strength of will and knowing that there was that wasn't going to be my life, and that I would get better. I didn't know how, and a lot of time I couldn't even envision that in the middle of it, but it's happened. And if you're going through a dark night of the soul moment and you don't know what's happening and you don't know why it's happening and why it's so bad, it's for your own good, and that's all I can say. It won't feel like that right now, but just draw on that strength of knowing, and that inner knowing that nothing ever makes sense when you're in it. You never understand why you're in that situation until after, down the track, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I can perfectly see why that needed to happen. But that comes with being able to put your ego aside and your story of hurt aside, and see yourself from a soul perspective, which I feel like I'm quite good at, is actually seeing the soul behind a person. That's probably why I've survived the things I've survived. You probably think, what have you been through? But you would only get sad about it because it's in there. But a lot of people would be shocked, I think, to know what I've actually been through, and I'm still here, and I'm still thriving today. And it's within everybody to do that. People think, I'm weak, I don't have that strength that you have. Well, you do actually. You just have to be willing to step back from your ego and your ego's willingness to trade on a story that happened to you, might have happened to you once, twice, 3, 17 times. Is that really you, or is that just things that happen to you, and are you able to recognize that they happen to you for a reason, and recognize what the universe is trying to teach you? Or do you prefer to stay in the matrix and say to yourself and live the story that you've made up, that you've been abused, that you're not worthy, that your father abandoned you, and that means everyone's going to abandon you? Well, if that keeps happening to you, then you have abandonment issues to look at, and you self-abandon big time. But it's just a story, and like, I don't want to invalidate anyone's feelings, because like I said before, I hate that. But once you've had those feelings validated, and somebody like me as a coach or whoever says, I can totally understand why you feel like that, then you should be able to breathe and sink into it, and by sinking into it you can actually pull out of it and see it from another perspective, a soul perspective, and understand that it is just a story that you're telling yourself. And anyway, you will move past all this heartbreak, and it will make you a stronger person, and you'll see the beauty of it. It's so beautiful once you understand why this has happened to you. And I'm hoping I make some sort of sense to somebody today. And it's okay to mourn. I wanted to speak about that anyway, actually. It's okay to mourn for the person that happened to you, that version of yourself, or that age that you were. It's okay. Obviously, I have emotion come up when I think about things that have happened, and I still have that, and I'm not going to push that down. I'll acknowledge it, but will I wallow in it? No, I will go. It's more of an investigative type thing. You're okay. What? That's still there. I wonder why that's still there. Let's think about that. What is triggering the emotion and the emotional response? Yes, it's like the thing that happened, but why is it still emotional? That's interesting to me, and my brain goes, all right, I want to know exactly what is that. What about the situation was it a reaction of a person that I didn't get? They didn't act like they cared enough at the time, or something like that. There'll be something that's causing the pain. As my psychologist would say, what's the pain behind that emotion that I saw? I don't see one now, but I did when I was really bad. When I first came home, I made sure I went and I did all the medical things. I don't just trade on spirituality all of the time. If I think something's going to help, whatever the tool is, I will go and help myself. And he would say, what's okay, you have an emotion, but what's the pain? What's the pain behind it? It's a very interesting question, because it's often not what you think. That's what I discovered. But anyway, I feel I've rambled on, and I am going to leave it at that, and I'm going to love you and leave you, and I will see you next week.